This guy just defeated the game's strongest AI equipped with #1 player skill without any prior experience. In his original world, he was the greatest swordsman alive, but thanks to Truck-kun, he was reverse isekai'd into this one. Once he discovered the game, he fell in love with it and spent countless hours mastering it. Now his real-world swordsmanship has evolved into unmatched in-game skill. But one day in the middle of an intense match, he suddenly collapsed because his synchronization rate had dropped too low. From that day on, Seojun could no longer play League of Streaming, and the dream he had worked so hard for seemed to disappear. Today our Chad, Seojun, is working in the boring research and development sector. He used to be a retired gamer, who couldn't play anymore because of his crushingly low synchronization rate. But thanks to advancements in technology, people like him with physical impairments can now play again, except for one small problem. The capsule costs him a whopping 100 million won, which bro's budget can almost afford, since he has 458 won to his name right now. Oh Ji-hye also admitted that the price is indeed burdensome, but she suddenly proposed something to Seojun. Back at his dorm, his roommate Kim Tae-wo, Seojun's roommate and a veteran streamer, is watching Shin Hyeon kickstart the event match with a challenger for the upcoming tournament. For those who don't know, Shin Hyeon is the first and current champion of the League of Streaming. The League of Streaming is no joke. It's disgustingly popular in Korea and worldwide, amassing nearly 15 million viewers. Swords are still considered meta, but that alone isn't enough to win. Kim himself got eliminated while using a sword last year. He's a veteran streamer who is shocked that his buddy is suddenly interested in streaming. Seojun suddenly recalls his earlier meeting with Ji-hye, who explained that if he won the league tournament, he could keep the capsule for himself, and until then she'd be happy to let him rent it free of charge. This gave Seojun the idea to participate in the tournament. Kim thought it was a ridiculous plan coming from his non-streamer friend. However, our boy has been getting a calling from deep inside his heart to chase his glory days of the sword. You see, our boy here has already lived a former life as the unparalleled sword god, one whose blade cuts through dozens without mercy. A memory of the past swallows him, outside his control. It concerns a secret black market that opened around the full moon. Right there at the bottom of it, sat someone who was about to be used as a tool. That someone was Seojun, from his previous life, a boy who was a slave to his fate and nothing more. But then bloodshed ensued, as every man in the room was slaughtered in cold blood. Someone had rescued this orphan, offering his aid and seeking to nurture the boy, welcoming him into his home. Back then, if his badass master hadn't arrived, his life would be far different. So the prodigy ended up being saved from his despairing fate, which later progressed into the heavy duty of upholding the traditional path for Seojun, maturing him into a figure known as the Sword God. Those warm memories of spending his life with his master comfort the current Seojun, who still has no idea why he became the Sword God in his past life. Bro's a bit annoyed because he basically got to the highest rank, and for what? Kim continues waffling, saying how our boy is a goddamn freakazoid for even thinking of purchasing a whole-ass capsule just to participate in the League of Streaming tournaments. To our boy, it's a wise investment. But to someone like Kim, a veteran, he wonders if this dude has any idea about the crazy restrictions of the tournament. That's right. If you're not a popular streamer or something, participation is a huge hassle. And gaining popularity isn't a walk in the park either. First, it requires excellent verbal ability to entertain the audience, paired with amazing game sense to impress the chatters. There's even humor needed to make sure the viewers don't get bored. Finally, the most painful process that haunts everyone, video editing. Even if one is capable of doing all of this, there's still a matter of luck, since streamers get left in the dirt all the time. In other words, Kim is showing our boy some hard reality checks. His delusions are in the gutter, and he won't become a top streamer overnight. To top it off, bro hasn't even run a capsule before, in front of his roommate no less. Seojun finds it still intriguing, and asks if he can achieve all his goals simply by relying on his skills. At this point, Kim is genuinely starting to believe that this dude is pretty damn insistent, but he does confirm there being a way. For instance, all he has to do is become better than the legendary Shin Hye-yeon herself, who is basically the faker of this world, since this girl is the nastiest gamer on the planet. The hilarious part is that our boy straight up states that he's going to destroy that girl, since he's better than her and has already used a capsule before. Obviously, this whole thing is ridiculous to Kim, who understands that his buddy has royally lost his brain cells. Adopting a different approach, the homeboy urges Seojun to get his ass inside the capsule already so that he can be humbled. After all, if his skills can truly surpass Haejun's, or better yet even Kim's personal records, bro promises to do all the housework until the end of time. And well, as you can guess, our boy is already smirking, probably thinking to himself that he's got himself a personal maid for free. Seojun confirms the deal, and the capsule slams shut, connecting him to the virtual reality world with a 10-second countdown. The system addresses him with his ID, along with his playtime and creation date. The thing is, the former sword god is badass enough and never really cared about the world of streaming, but something about his master's words from his previous life still rings true to him. The wise teacher once told him to start anything, regardless of his clumsiness in life, because hesitating means risking not achieving anything at all. Opening his eyes, Seojun finds himself in a new setting, entering the training ground alongside Kim, who is also immediately transported there. Our boy asks for information about the place and learns that it's a basic game inside the capsule, a place with a sparring AI for record-based progress. Sejun is annoyed that he couldn't just face Hyeon right away, but his homeboy stated that he doesn't want to make our Chad bleed too soon. Checking the system details, our boy learns there's a level 1 through 10 system for the AI, and level 10 itself mimics the style of the person who cleared level 9 with the best score imaginable. Haenwon has held that record for half a decade. Level 9 also runs on her replay, though that's far-fetched, since getting to level 10 in the first place requires clearing all the other levels first, which is tough enough on its own. Before Kim can finish his yapping, our boy initiates the first duel state and summons the ChatGPT bot into the arena. Sojun doesn't even bother listening to Kim anymore, but it's implied that he actually skipped straight past level 1 instead of clearing it properly. In mere moments, the fight starts off with ChatGPT launching full speed with a sword, only to get blocked by our Giga Chad. Kim is still smirking, confused as to why his friend can act so cocky while deflecting those sword strikes. ChatGPT attacked once again with a barrage of sword strike, only to be blocked every single time. ChatGPT, as a final attack. The bot tried to stab strike our boy, but only to get countered by a slash attack from our Chad, leading into a clean cut right across the bot's torso. This takes out a pretty hefty chunk of its health, stunning Kim, who calls it a mere fluke. But get this, when Sojun's opponent swings back for round 2, our boy delivering a dozen slashes precisely across its body like it was nothing. By the end of his attack, Sejun slices off the AI's arm, leaving Kim's jaw wide open. The bot is at the mercy of our boy, who towers over it like some kind of menace. Sejun doesn't spare the poor thing any mercy, and literally chops its head clean off, ending the fight. The simulation for the duel ends, and the bot disappears instantly, while the system congratulates him for winning the level 9 duel with a ranking of 107th. And yes, you heard that right. Even Kim is astonished that this dude cleared level 9 right off the bat. The next fight is the real deal. Materializing into reality comes the reflection of a monstrous AI taking the shape of Haewon's own battle capabilities. This isn't going to be an easy match. Even Kim is starting to wonder if this dude is some secretly overpowered psychopath. Back at the Research and Development Department, the director is asked about her decision for the free rental she just gave. It's a reckless move for someone like Sejun, since bro took the whole piece home for basically free. Ji-hye's assistant taunts that our boy doesn't even look like he can operate the damn thing. But mommy director is calm and believes that talent should not go to waste. Back then she knew that Sejun missed his chance because of his failure to realize the synchronization rate, even though she was the only person who thought of him as amazing, and the kid has even improved since then. In other words, though she knows participating is difficult for him normally, she's still looking forward to the future where he does participate. Because if that happens, Ji-hye confidently declares that this man will win everything. Let's return to the training grounds for our epic duel. The former sword god is handling the fight relatively chill so far. Kim is genuinely bothered by the mere idea of this man winning the duel. Since he's interested in the outcome, the streamer decides to hit the record button and show the rest of the world in case our boy here wins. As for the main duel, Haeon's bot goes for an aerial strike. The fancy move is casually blocked by Sejun's clean defense, who then returns the blow with double the love, knocking the level 10 AI back quite a bit. From an exchange of a few clashes, even the legendary sword god is impressed with Haeon's ability, a feeling he's familiar with, because the girl's talent even now confirms that she's better than all the opponents faced in his previous life. The self-glazing continues with Sejun still believing he's far stronger. He gets distracted, and well, the bot ends up landing a lethal strike. Game over, right? Kim is already hating, having never believed in his boy to begin with. But here's the thing, Sejun casually plunges the sword out of his abdomen and tosses it aside. There's basically no damage to his main body, no blood or pain travels through. Of course his health points are reduced all the way down to 1. But the scariest part is Haeon. He's actually freaking out that this man might have let himself get hit intentionally, just to satisfy his own curiosity. But you see Haeon's bot manifests another blade to end the duel, blitzing at full speed to conclude the fight. In retaliation, our boy rockets ahead too. Both fighters meet in an epic sword clash. Sejun smiles, indicating that he's still taking the fight pretty chill. As for the AI, this thing's starting to get overwhelmed, and it can sense it, until suddenly the sword god's blade severs the bot across its chest, followed by a beautiful kick from Sejun, pushing it further back. Haeon's bot returns to the ground, its points all the way down to 4. Continuing the trash talk, our boy wonders if he's instilled enough fear into the AI that it's now afraid to even attack him. Sojun presses his own offensive initiative, seizing the early draw and nearly cutting Haewon down, but the attack is blocked just in time. Despite the successful block, the force behind our boy's swing is so powerful that the AI's sword begins to chip and shatter. Kim watches in shock as the sword shatters apart, concluding the strike and practically guaranteeing our boy's victory. Now Sojun towers over the AI, having it at his mercy. The trash talk continues with Bro saying that the AI needs another 8 years just to beat him, and with that he cleaves its head off, winning the duel. Kim is out here starstruck. The real owner of level 10 has now changed, matching it to our boy's abilities instead. Sojun looking badass as ever in that clean fit, wonders if he's qualified now. The following day Bro's fancy new housemate is already bringing him food and water, overworking the ever-living crap out of Kim at every opportunity. I mean, look at Bro suffering in the background, realizing that he made a bet with the worst dude ever. Sojun only just installed the game the other day, making him wonder if he should log in and prepare stuff for his first stream. He goes inside and boots up the system. To his surprise, Bro is transported to a white space. Having no idea or sense of belonging to this location, he focuses on the system screen, which welcomes him to the player lobby where he can get ready before moving on. Our boy suddenly remembers that streamers usually get ready here before continuing on, so he has a rough idea of this place, except it's pretty damn plain right now, looking like a hospital ward. Still, Sejun goes with the flow, right off the streaming platform. His only goal in life for the moment is to climb the ranks, building his reputation so that he can qualify for the league tournament. Since he booted up the platform, the stream initiates right away with his chosen game. This one is called Dawn of the Assassination Squad, so the idea is that it's a medieval assassination game. The goal is to eliminate targets using unnoticeable methods. The same game surpassed 2 million viewers just in its opening week, and its popularity continues to soar sky high. In other words, this is the perfect environment for our boy to hone his beginner streaming skills, so he does what he does best. Our boy latches his grappling hook and climbs atop the building. Clad in this badass outfit, he looks down at the cityscape. Sejun knows the fun has only just begun, as he officially kickstarts his first stream. Oh, and by the way, since it's his first time streaming and everything, Kim ended up giving him a long-ass name just to garner attention from the rest of the viewers, though our boy isn't really confident in Bro's abilities and doesn't really have a way around playing a game beforehand. Anyway, he looks down at the gorgeous view of the city. Just the graphics alone are commendable. Sejun is genuinely happy to experience this side of life too. By the way, his character is called Dane. Christina, a gorgeous blonde, and his teammate, comes to inform him that he's on a dangerous mission ahead. Our boy's character responds automatically, which basically implies that this is the tutorial setting for the game. Dane's voice is different from Sejun's own voice, and the experience so far has been exhilarating. Christina has no words to speak while her partner delivers the hardest line, stating that those who kill must also be ready to die. The girl is fed up with his corny ass and urges him to be careful, but Dane keeps it chill and tells her to head back. Before leaving, she hands him a note explaining that there's no truth here, so he's better off doubting as much as possible. This confirms to Sejun that the mission has officially begun, and his character is ready to doubt even the chaotic setting. Let's change the view. In the next scene, our Chad here is swinging around the city, acting Spider-Man. After his super cool landing, Sejun receives a notification from the system about his abrupt auto-start tutorial. From here on, he's on his own, but there's no path ahead except a blocked passageway. Our boy is given a hint to climb up the pipes, which is a pretty odd assignment. Bro's piping skills are pretty smooth, allowing him to leap up without breaking a sweat. At the top of the roof we have Sejun questioning why his body is automatically moving all by itself, a nod to the amazingly immersive environment. He begins to wonder if it's all over and if he should just enjoy the auto mode tutorial. The auto mode is slammed with a proper tutorial quest to assassinate someone called Eater, a high-ranking noble and manager of a fabled society. With the only goal set as Eater's termination, Sejun checks the map settings and finds it impressive how cool this game is. Helping him out, he's given a rope to descend. Our boy is rather impressed with how the game is properly helping out with the basics, but something seems to bother our boy's cat-like curiosity. He gets the impulsive thought of just letting the rope go and descending faster, since this part is pretty boring. To test his hypothesis, this man literally lets go, bravely crash-landing all the way down with a heavy thud. So far, dude's plan didn't work as expected, but he does notice a couple of chatters laughing about his clumsiness in the game for being a damn newbie. So far, these dudes are straight up making fun of his ass for being lame. It suddenly dawns on him that he's streaming too, which begs the question of why 4 people even bothered to join. At first he thought no one would join, but thanks to his incredibly long and weird title courtesy of Kim, the chatters have taken pity on him. The whole idea of watching him be clumsy is entertaining to them, though their IDs and usernames are pretty long and weird to keep up with. Remembering his homeboy's words, Sejun recalls being told to practice slowly, filling the silence instead of focusing on the numbers. The idea behind streaming isn't the numbers, but the interaction value. That's why the only reason people gravitate toward popular streams is because of their interaction ability. But also people love small streamers, since they get recognized fast in chat instead of getting buried down. Playing around with his streaming life, our boy begins responding to a bunch of messages on his own, expressing his shock and generally entertaining the chat, making his presence known. Finally, one guy tells him to start the quest already, which becomes his cue to act. Speaking of which, let's cut to the ominous and dramatic setting of Count Itera's mansion. The chatters are intimidated by the frightening atmosphere, while our boy wonders if it'll be fine for him to just walk his way inside politely. The chatters are stunned by his balls of titanium, while Seojun looks back at the note Christina left him, which gives him precise coordinates of Etera's bedroom on the second floor, as well as the number of enemies. For weapons, Seojun is handed a sword stick as well as a gauntlet, pretty basic and expected for tutorial items. Not that it matters, since he just has to kill one guy no matter the tool. But right as our boy is about to head straight inside, his chatters full-on yapping for being an idiot and rushing in blindly. Seojun feels like an idiot as they emphasize that he should read the rest of the note Christina handed him. At this point they've given up all hope on him, genuinely thinking a proper defeat will teach this newbie a lesson. The ancient sword god has no idea of the sudden shift in everyone's mood, politely asking if he can just walk his way inside. One person tells him to play it stealthy, because in this game getting caught allows NPCs to get way stronger. So the goal is to stay stealthy. On very few occasions, veteran players intentionally blitz inside, making all the noise they can to openly slaughter the enemies, which is called a warrior play. This intrigues our boy, who wonders if he can pull off a warrior play to win this one outright. The chatters explain that no one has done it yet. Several have tried, but not even hardcore streamers have gotten any luck. But all that loser talk only confirms one thing to Seojun, that it is indeed doable, so long as he's on the level of Haeon herself. This gives him all the confidence he needs to aim for the fancy warrior play strategy. Heading up near the estate, our boy can feel the immense pressure of it all. From Kim he learned that chatters love the idea of clowning on their favorite streamer, which is exactly what these dudes are doing right now by laughing at him. With 3 more viewers gained so far, he figures the pace is fine as long as they're not being out of line. Approaching the guards, our boy makes it absolutely clear he isn't here for any stealthy mission. He's just here to catch all the smoke. Seojun assures his chatters that he knows what to do, but they're roasting his ass and assuring him in return that he's dead meat anyway. The first knight lunges at him to seize the intruder, but this is where our boy stops geeking out and starts locking in. Seojun casually blocks the strike and follows with a clean return, defeating the first guard instantly. This is a huge upset for the chatters, who had absolutely no idea that this man was built differently. Bro literally parried like it was no big deal, and though our boy himself has no idea what happened, he merely plucks his weapon out of the enemy's corpse, questioning if it's really this easy to kill these paperweight NPCs. One more guard tries to flank him. The sword god catches the attack with no difficulty, all while reading his chat, who keep getting baffled by his consistent parrying. The term is new to Seojun, who looks down at his enemy before killing him too, netting another 1,000 points. In a hilarious plot twist, Bro asks his chat what a parry even is, and as you'd expect, they go crazy over the realization that he could do it twice without even knowing what it was. This confirms to them that it has to be a fluke, while our boy begs them to just give him the simple answer. After an explanation, the streamer understands that blocking perfectly against a downward attack causes opponents to automatically get stunned, a move even retired pros have difficulty executing. The fact that pros struggle with it stuns our boy, who recalls that the level 9 AI he fought earlier was already pro level, and it got destroyed pretty handily by Seojun, who now understands why the move is considered hard to pull off. Parrying requires perfect anticipation followed by the perfect counter-response, but thanks to his helpful chat, he now knows what it is. For his own safety they beg him to turn back. This is too easy for Seojun. His words cause literal chaos in the chat. Half the people call him a lucky bastard, while the others praise his talented movements. Anyway, the situation isn't too far off from his previous life either. Thanks to his own lowly background, people doubted him back then too. Even after he defeated several big shots, he was constantly underestimated. Seojun can tell it's not exactly the same, but the situation still feels similar. Lost in his thoughts, he arrives in front of 5 armed men. In the end, nothing really matters. He just has to prove his worth through sheer undeniable results, which he does by straight up sending the first dude to the Shadow Realm. Another one flanks him with an aerial strike. The perfect parry opportunity arrives. Seojun gorgeously maneuvers back and confirms a hit, elegantly cutting all his enemies down. By the end of his slaughtering sequence, all bodies topple at his feet. Radiating confidence, this man declares that they'd need at least 108 of the best Muay Thai masters to even stand a chance of taking him down, though that's mostly because he's got a sword and the masters don't. One last guy tries to run off to request reinforcements, only to get his head destroyed with a brutal stab. One thing's for sure, Seojun isn't soft. This man is a cold-blooded killer. 6 new bodies are added to his body count. His performance so far is genuinely enticing the chatters to wonder if this guy is even a beginner, or if he's gaslighting them all. One specific commenter starts spamming and gets a warning that he'll be banned if he keeps it up. The guy politely stops. Seojun knows he needs to maintain order in the chat, but then he's met with some bratty chatters who don't give a damn about being banned from a loser streamer's chat, so he gives this arrogant prick exactly what he wants. Our boy quickly bans his first viewer, maintaining peace for everyone else. The rest are happy with the outcome, which surprises the streamer, who realizes he's doing well, though he has no idea why given his past life experiences. Back then, the higher-ups always imposed restrictions on him, so he never knew what place to call his home, yet he couldn't even hide his talent, which turned him into the lone sword god again. His imagining is interrupted by his master's ramblings, so he stops dozing off on that and goes back to reading the chat. The chatters are intrigued about whether this guy has godly control or is just using some kind of trick. They spam comments trying to figure out his secret, and keeping it chill, our boy simply throws up a thumbs up and says they just have to remember their past lives. It's such a useless piece of advice that they all go silent before exploding on him for talking bullshit. Anyway, Seo-jun pushes further inside, drawing the attention of the rest of the guards, who surround him in every direction. Instead of being intimidated like the chatters, this guy is relishing the joy of being the first newbie who can pull off a 13 combo parry. The guards charge full speed to take down the streamer, and with so many enemies at once, the mission should be hard, but Seo-jun is out here delivering wide slashes, taking down multiple opponents at the same time. Two guys come at him from behind, trying to backshot him, but his spatial awareness accounts for that, letting him duck with ease. His movements are so amazing that the commenters wonder if he's got eyes in the back of his head too. The guards are just as stunned by this intruder's skill. Two of them try to attack at once, attempting to overwhelm the sword god with their combined strength. However, even that's not enough. This man parries perfectly and goes for the headshot on both of them, wearing an easy smile the whole time. We get an interesting perspective from one of the chatters in real life who is genuinely thrilled to see this newbie wipe the floor with the game. Joam is a hardcore fan of the game itself, one where stealth and assassination are always prioritized. When the development team first announced its release, he was ecstatic, and was there from day one. The difficulty settings raised his expectations even more, feeding his desire for a real challenge like the kind these games present. The one issue with the game was that the difficulty ended up becoming exceptionally high, causing players to end up in despair. The usual approach was to just blow up the whole building, or spend hours memorizing a target's routine, because bypassing security was that difficult. Hiding out for 3 whole hours sometimes didn't even work. Joam worked his way through several streamers trying to find a reliable strategy but never got a good answer, because of how brutal the difficulty was. But right now, he's living the damn life, watching this one guy pull off the superstar plays he's always wanted to cheer for. This same guy is executing high-level combos the world has never seen before, fueling a kind of enthusiasm in Joam that has him cheering loudly and spamming appreciation in chat. Back to our boy Seo-jun has wiped out the entire fleet of guards, leaving the chatters to question whether they even deserve to witness such a gorgeous spectacle. Bro doesn't get why they're all so surprised, wondering if it's really that special. They roast the crap out of him for not reading the room on how special he actually is. He's acting like a total pro gamer out here, staying cool against their insults, even telling the chatters to turn the stream off if they're that bothered. But his nonchalant attitude only draws them in more. By the way, the same 6 viewers all end up following him, right until a sudden explosion kicks off yet another sequence in the trial. The boss fight is here at last. Seo-jun casually dodges thanks to his tremendous reaction speed. The man in question is the noble himself. And while everyone wonders if Seo-jun's got what it takes, our boy answers through his actions, leaping straight up top and going for the immediate kill, cutting past the boss. However, despite his perfect slash, the noble is unshaken, turning around with a grin on his face as if to mock that pathetic attempt. There wasn't even effective damage done, confirming to our boy that this guy is something special. He then asks the chat if maces can even be parried, which cracks everyone up over his idea of one-shotting the actual boss. The noble, meanwhile, goes ballistic with his mace, swinging his weapon all around and ripping up pieces of the ground. Seo-jun seems to be doing just fine dodging it, while the noble confidently swings away, ready for anything this guy throws at him. Our boy leaps up top once again, delivering yet another wide slash that only chips away 3 health points. The noble retaliates with his mace, and though the streamer hasn't taken any damage, he starts to realize the damage isn't piling up the way it should. This makes him wonder if he can actually clear the stage just by repeatedly dealing chip damage. Zem chimes in to help his hero, explaining that if he doesn't kill Iter within 5 minutes, it's an automatic failure. The countdown is already down to the 4th minute, adding another layer of difficulty. Seo-jun nearly gets clipped by the mace after getting distracted for a moment, and realizes he genuinely has no proper way of finishing this guy off yet. This makes him consider trying a different strategy, targeting vitals instead. Joam gives him the most useful tip yet. Attacking the same spot stacks the damage. It's exactly the information bro needed, and our boy puts it to use right away, leaping up top and slashing the noble's throat in the same exact spot, multiplying the damage several times over. It's clear now that Ater is vulnerable in that one spot. Joam was right, so now Seo-jun just has to repeat the same move over and over. The noble is in a pretty crappy position, but so is the countdown, ticking down to the 2nd minute. Without wasting more time, the first thing Seo-jun does is grab the noble's weapon, making sure there aren't any distractions in the way. The noble tries to throw a fist, roaring at him to let go of his weapon. Of course, our boy dodges effortlessly as his blade glides across Ater's neck once more, shaving off 100 points. More slashes follow, the damage multiplying with each hit, reaching an almost inhuman speed as he takes down the boss. The finishing flurry of slashes is so beautiful that the chatters are left in awe. Only one hit remains for the killing blow. Things are down to the last minute, and Ater is frantically panicking and cursing at the assassination squad, declaring that he won't be taken out so easily. The mission ends right then, with our boy delivering the final cut, concluding the streamer's amazing run with one particular viewer quietly watching everything unfold. Joam couldn't contain his excitement. He'd just witnessed one of the best things he'd ever seen. News of our boy's clear spread fast. We find ourselves back at the estate, where Ater pulls one last move, surprising Seo-jun by casting a myriad of magic circles all over the place. Out comes a rumbling explosion, devouring the whole estate in destruction, and nearly swallowing our boy too. But luckily he escapes. Seo-jun had clearly underestimated this guy's guts, having no idea he could pull off a self-destruction spell like that at the last moment. Right as he stepped outside, our boy found himself confronted by even more guards rushing in to catch the assassin. In the end he had no choice but to run, escaping into the woods, completely gassed out and having burned through every bit of his stamina. But the chase wasn't over yet. An arrow came bursting his way, striking his shoulder just as he leapt off the edge of a cliff. And it was right then he realized he'd messed up big time. The last thing our boy saw was a glimpse of the person standing up top. And just like that he crashed into the water below, losing consciousness. The next time we find him, he's waking up in that same valley, his hand dipping into the calm water, slowly pulling him back to consciousness. Looming over him is another figure who just so happened to stumble across his body, a man wearing the badge of a golden eagle, looking pretty pleased with his discovery. The screen then switches over to the player character menu. Yeah, by the way, Dane just died an inescapable death sequence, so it's basically confirmed as lore now, and there was nothing Seo-jun could have done since he wasn't even in control of his own body at the time. The chatters are annoyed that all that hype and aura ended in such a letdown of a finish. Still, our boy kept his chin up and wondered what to focus on next. One chatter suggested he swing by the tavern to see Christina, the familiar face he first met at the start. Turns out our boy realizes he'd already been auto-moved to the tavern right after his character died, so he heads in and starts poking around. Inside, the place is buzzing with life, and the tavern lady turns out to be none other than the stunning Christina herself. Obviously nobody in their right mind would pass up a chance to talk to her. Noticing him standing there, she asks the customer if he needs anything. Quick reminder, this isn't Dane anymore, this is our boy's own player character, which is why she has zero clue who this charming stranger even is. Our boy tries to say he needs a lot, but before he can even get a word out, auto mode kicks in and whips out the eagle badge, stunning Christina on the spot. The same girl he wanted to flirt with suddenly hits him with the coldest stare imaginable, demanding to know who he is. The warm, cozy vibe instantly turns tense and icy, with our boy trying to smooth things over, saying there's no need to get so worked up, he's only here to help. To drive the point home, Seo-jun reveals he's actually pretty good at assassination work, which puts her on high alert, wondering if he's the man expected from the West. Playing along, our boy confirms it. Meanwhile, the blonde remembers this guy as a greedy little weasel who'd do anything for a few extra coins, exactly why he never sided with the secret society. With the tension cooling off, she figures it's only right they introduce themselves properly this time. Calling herself Christina, she asks for the player's name. Right then, Seo-jun gets prompted to type in his own name. Everyone's curious what he'll go with. Since the streamer's actual username is Seo-jun, bro never bothered setting a nickname, so the game just auto-filled his real name instead. Wanting to look extra edgy and badass, bro types in nameless, which immediately gets him clowned on by chat for being so lazy. What's funny to Seo-jun though is that the same alias used to belong to a bunch of different people back in the day, a mysterious title used to hide the identities of certain figures in the Muram world. The system asks him to confirm the name as nameless, and he slaps a yes on it, officially unlocking access to receive proper assassination requests from the Sun Tavern. With introductions out of the way, our boy asks what he's supposed to do to get in contact with them. After handing over the badge, Christina curiously asks about the original owner's whereabouts, and the chatters are quick to point out she might have had a bit of a crush on him. To make things easier for her, our boy tells her he buried the guy over at the West Pier. Instead of getting emotional about it, she hands him a black signal stone to use for contact. Stone in hand, Christina says she's looking forward to working with him. Our boy leaves the tavern wiped out for the day, feeling like he's already done more than enough. The other chatters are confused, asking if bro's actually switching his identity to nameless for good, which Seo-jun confirms, though honestly he couldn't care less what they end up calling him. The stream finally wraps after a long day, and our boy awkwardly bids everyone farewell, flustered from how weirdly cute it felt to say goodbye. Bro's trying his best to log out but struggling like crazy despite all his supposed skill. Chatters keep roasting him for being such a noob about it. The system pulls him back into the capsule, ending the sequence, and he thinks back on how his 6 loyal viewers stuck around and watched the whole thing. Bro's still a little bummed about the whole name situation, when suddenly a new message pops up on his screen. The stream's already over, and yet somehow there's a fresh message waiting for him. When he opens the chat, our boy can't believe these guys are still showing up even after the stream ended. Let's circle back to Kim, who had a blast during today's stream. Out of nowhere our boy comes crashing in, sending bro's face smashing straight into his own phone. Kim's not thrilled, nose sore and all, but our boy shoves the chat in his face, showing him how it's still going strong even after the stream ended. Even a veteran like Kim is stunned that chat's still active. Trying to get to the bottom of it, 2 shows our boy his phone, explaining that the news article going around must be his doing. Naturally, homeboy's genuinely annoyed that this guy basically scored free marketing off the viewers. In other words, the article's been pulling in more and more people, and it's all thanks to that one viewer from earlier, Jonem. Kim explains that at this rate, if it hits 30 recommendations, the article's gonna hit the front page and blow up his follower count even more. Exhausted, Kim tells this clown to finally get some damn sleep after streaming all night. Our boy's a little let down that this so-called pro streamer gets tired so easily. Back in his cozy room, Sejun scrolls through the recommendations that just keep piling up. The marketing effect seems to be doing wonders for him, and he figures he'll check back in tomorrow. Tomorrow comes around, and just like homeboy predicted, the count blows past 30, pushing the article to the front page and stacking up his follower count even more. People online are straight up arguing over him at this point. But what really shocks our boy is that the Assassination Squad community's also talking about something else entirely. One member's complaining about the annoyance of the level 10 AI, which now tracks some random player's data instead of Heian, making it borderline impossible to fight. Curious, our boy clicks the video attached to the post. Apparently the Heian AI normally waits on standby if the user drops their sword, but this new AI doesn't give an inch, refusing to allow any free openings. Even our boy's own AI is ridiculously cool about it, straight up mocking his opponents, which has the forum wondering if the player himself is just as much of a prick. Bro's getting roasted over his own personality, and he knows it. Seojun figures the only reason things turned out this way is because he genuinely talked and bonded with Kim while playing. It feels unfair, but right now people just don't seem to vibe with his personality. Interestingly enough, one person seems to have picked up on something. It's Joam, who's starting to come off like a creepy stalker keeping tabs on him. Seojun takes a beat to process it. He never meant for this much attention to come his way in the first place. Too much of it all at once is clogging his mind, since it can genuinely be dangerous based on what he's been through in his past life. That kind of power breaks people who can't handle it, which is exactly what leads the sword god back into the capsule once more, knowing all he can really do is keep on grinding. His goal is to take it slow, heading back to the lobby, which now shows his current standing. The same guy who once had 6 followers has now shot up to over 400 in a single day. Sure, these newcomers are impressive and all, but the only ones who truly stuck by his stream from the start were the original 6, which has him wondering how many will show up today. Curious, he kicks off his stream. The system greets Seojun and pulls him back into the world of Dawn of Assassination Squad. This new area is the city of Altion, split into 4 districts: Royal, Aetheria Spire, Gilded Quarter, and the Low Quarter, each home to a different class of people. Players get handed assassination missions that send them from one location to the next, though it's also entirely possible to go assassinate someone without a mission at all. Taking in the new setting, our boy greets his viewers, who surround him with hype and anticipation, eager to finally see his real skills in action. The new folks are honored to be part of the nameless stream. Our boy assures everyone that Joe's not the one hyping this up, and that there's no bribery involved either. The controversy dies down within seconds, clearing up any rumors of paid marketing. Out of nowhere, one guy drops a 10,000 won donation right off the bat, asking how he can find ET on his own. Since it's his first donation, Sejun's pretty happy about it, and offers up an easy tip: just strike repeatedly at one spot. And yeah, that's about the most obvious advice ever. Everyone already knows that, which gets him roasted by chat for basically wasting the guy's donation. Knowing he flopped the explanation, our boy tries again, this time actually giving a proper tip: strike the NPC's vital points to fluster them and make them sweat more. Combined with the earlier advice, it forms a solid guide on how to deal with Ager. The same donor drops another 1,001 for the in-depth guide. Sejun notices there's now a ton of new people he has absolutely no clue about, and checking the viewer count, he's baffled to see over 300 tuned in. Bro was only expecting maybe 100. Next up is the question of what Seojun should focus on for the day. One chatter's begging for some more warrior-style play, eager to see him prove his skills. Other loyal chatters push back, annoyed at the idea of demanding he prove his legendary skills. Seojun tells them to chill for a bit. Among the noise, one guy suggests he just look around for something he likes. It's easy enough to pick up missions on the spot while sightseeing the city. With opinions flying every which way, the streamer finally decides to test out his pickpocketing skills as a warm-up. In the middle of the crowd, a drunk fool stumbles into our boy before snapping at the cloaked stranger for getting in his way. While this guy's busy running his mouth, our boy quietly pulls off something far more useful thanks to his slick fingers. After picking up the grappling technique, he's now got full control over pickpocketing, landing 3 successful steals in a row. Chatters start wondering if bro's turning into a thief instead of a warrior. All of a sudden, that whole Marine backstory's starting to make sense now. Pickpocketing's only fun to chat though, if the thief's actually getting chased. Still, Seojun just wants to make sure he doesn't go broke for now. He's raked in enough cash to practically afford a penthouse. While he's busy admiring his loot, 2 thugs decide to gang up on him, acting all tough and intimidating, trying to strong-arm him for being slick with his stuff. One of them even asks if Sojun's got permission to do business around here. Confused, our boy asks if this is about the money, which obviously is exactly what this clown's after. Pausing the game, Sojun asks chat what kind of game even uses thugs instead of guards to confront a thief, which gets a laugh out of everyone. Still paused, our boy gets the idea to take both these guys out after spotting a wanted poster aimed at eliminating the disassemblers. Apparently there's a bigger goal here: eliminate the gang boss and clean up the market in the process. The plan's simple: today's stream is going to be a whole lot of cockroach extermination in these streets. Meanwhile, his own chatters have zero faith in this guy pulling off catching the disassemblers, though some of them are hyped anyway, since this dude clearly has no idea what he's actually walking into. The scene cuts over to the disassemblers' side. Alpaca, a veteran streamer averaging around 10,000 viewers, who's currently fearing for his life after getting caught in the middle of an assassination challenge. His odds aren't looking great, and his luck's downright trash, since the candle wax right next to him ends up melting and dripping straight onto his bald head. The streamer's cooked, his position's blown, ending the run in his death. With the mission resetting all over again, he curses his rotten luck for dying to these same gang members repeatedly. Even his own chatters remind him he's now on a 4-death losing streak. Fed up, the guy genuinely wants to eliminate Drake and clear out the 4th district for good, but that's easier said than done. Even his loyal chatters know it's basically impossible for a guy like him, especially with how unbeatable the rulers are. The rulers are a special squad within the syndicate that runs the 4th district, and yeah, they're basically the main villains of the whole game. First there's the Grand Majesty Queen, then the Master of the Aetherius Spire, plus the head of the Royalist faction, and finally the boss of the disassemblers and ruler of the 4th district, a guy called Drake, known for being nearly impossible to track down. He's like a bug that can spawn in any one of 10 different bases, a real risk to even go after. Anyway, Alpaca pulls up the map to try again, checking Drake's location first. Based on what he knows about the group, it's clear the 4th district's leader is holed up somewhere that's not easy to find. One donation of 10,000 won comes in, with the donor pushing him to do a warrior-style play instead of struggling so much. Under pressure, Alpaca has absolutely no idea what warrior play even means in this context. Others are dead serious about the suggestion, telling him to check out the community, which piques his interest enough to go look. In his head, he's really hoping someone out there clears it, so he can name that person his master, and finally pull off a warrior-style clear of the leader himself. His words carry weight around here. Alpaca figures it's ridiculous for anyone to clear Drake using warrior play, so he brushes it off. Bro's just cheesing it, when suddenly his entire chat bursts out laughing right in his face. Dude realizes his confidence is about to crash and burn. His own viewers call him out as a pathetic coward, and he ends up getting roasted even harder than our boy, with more donations pouring in to pressure him into following through on his words. Right then, the scene cuts to an invasion happening at one of the bases. The disassemblers immediately scramble into formation to block the intruder, Sojun himself. Rewinding about 30 minutes before Alpaca's Green Apple stream declaration, we catch up with our boy who just run into the thugs in the alleyway. The alley felt dark and sketchy, but Seo-jun's best move was to just tail these guys without picking a fight. He's honestly surprised to learn just how hard the syndicate is to actually catch. Chatters roast him for thinking hunting down the rulers would be some kind of cakewalk. Our boy has literally no clue who the rulers even are, which gets him mocked and laughed at by the entire chat for a solid minute straight. Some of them are having so much fun they start donating. The good news at least is that our boy managed to look up a guide on hunting down Drake the night before. Still, even with all his options laid out, he found the actual execution pretty tough. Then came the simplest plan of all: beat their asses and make sure they suffer for it. Anyway, Seo-jun's told to hand over everything he's got, including the wallet he'd stolen earlier, which these guys apparently already know all about. Chatters figure this fight's gonna be a breeze since this same guy already wiped out 13 dudes solo. Ginger Hair's trying to intimidate him, throwing out threats, but Seo-jun stays ice cold, glaring back as they demand he hand over his money or get his face rearranged. Politely, our boy asks if they know where Drake is. Obviously not the Drake you know. Anyways, the thugs confirm they do, though they're clearly thrown off that this idiot's casually asking for their boss's coordinates. Realizing these clowns won't cooperate easily, Sojun figures beating it out of them is the only real option. These poor guys had no clue what they were signing up for, and foolishly tried to backshot our Chad from behind. The former sword god swiftly leaps back, dodging the strike and creating perfect distance from the first attacker. The second guy comes in hot, nearly stabbing him in the face, but Seo-jun slips from it and gave the guy a Mike Tyson special. The first guy's down, and his weapon's now Sojun's to use. Then comes the redhead, thinking a loud battle cry is gonna give him some kind of edge. The punk gets perfectly parried, stunned for a second, and using that opening, Sojun goes for the finishing blow, ending another one of their lives. Just like that, all these punks are wiped out. Chatters are hyped and thoroughly entertained by the streamer's unique fighting style. Ginger Hair, the one so confident earlier, is now whimpering like a kitten. Our boy presses his blade to the guy's head, asking about Drake's location. Of course the idiot refuses to talk, so Seo-jun nearly slices him in half, putting the fear of death into him hard enough that he's left trembling, knowing there won't be a second warning. The ginger-haired thug watches Seo-jun threaten him without a shred of mercy. Even the chatters call this straight-up torture, but by the end of it the guy's left with a sore head, and he spills every bit of information anyway. Chatters are impressed all over again by how well Seojun handles gathering info and running missions his own way. His current problem, though, is how tiny this dagger is, so he starts scanning the area for a better weapon. He spots one particular weapon that catches his eye, and that's how we fast forward to the present, where our boy crashes into their base using a pipe. His Ninja Turtle instincts are back, unstoppably blitzing through the entire group, wrecking everyone. What's actually astonishing Seojun, right now though, is just how brutal this mission's difficulty is, since he just took down 30 people and is still expected to pull off an assassination on top of it. While he's busy processing the sheer scale of this level, a certain man's voice cuts in, sounding amused. Suddenly a projectile comes flying out of nowhere, nearly slicing our boy's face open with a knife. He dodges just in time. Even though he looks cool pulling off that dodge, Bro's composure shatters the moment he realizes hundreds of swords are now flying straight at him. Drake is back at it again with his projectile ability, but this time, worry not, because our boy fought it easily by using his trusty weapon to deflect them all. The chatters can't even fathom his godlike reaction speed, and even the leader himself can't help but throw praise his way. At the same time, the player's actions have notably upset Drake, and so he taunts Seojun, questioning whether this filthy casual can parry what's about to come next. The leader of the disassemblers throws his special knives, each one imbued with magical energy, and all of them shoot at full speed. There's just way too many of them to deal with, so this time Seojun takes the smarter route by whirling his pipe in a circular motion, blocking each hit that was meant to turn him into a cheese slice full of holes. The deflections land beautifully. Most of the knives get pinned in the surroundings, while one even slices past Drake's face, drawing blood. Our boy flashes the greatest shit-eating grin ever, basically saying gotcha without a single word, while his fans keep cheering him on, all the while wondering why he couldn't parry that last one himself. Drake now holds the player in high regard and asks for his name, only to be told he doesn't have one. True to basic NPC form, he praises the guy for having such a name, nodding along to the idea that the strong deserve respect. Hence, this man stops holding back and unleashes his full strength. Dual blades plus 2 chain spears, making him a genuinely complicated opponent. The chain blades come first, and the sword god deflects the initial hit with ease, not realizing another one is already swinging in from behind. It really looks like this one's going to land, but right at the last second, our boy connects a clean kick, knocking the blade up and breaking its momentum. Back when Drake was only throwing daggers, our boy had the impression this dude was a fraud, even worse than the noble Eder. But with things as they are now, Seojun can finally see why this weapon alone makes Drake such a real challenge to take down. The sword god even respects the devs for building battle mechanics that basically push you toward warrior play. Drake, wondering if his opponent has stopped attacking altogether, decides to go on the offensive himself, clashing his blades against our boy's admittedly cute weapon. The pipe still overwhelms him with ease, forcing Drake to bring out the chain spears too, and those get dodged just as smoothly. The chatters are starting to get bored watching him play pure defense. By this point, Seojun himself has decided this guy is even tougher than taking on 13 guards at once. Difficulty aside, the sword god survived the mountain of blades and the forest of swords in his past life, so he always knows a path to victory. The way through this opponent is to cut past the distance and punch straight through the layers of defense. Drake reads the move coming and tries to counter, but right as he responds, our boy successfully parries the aerial strike, stunning the leader dead in his tracks. This kind of attack normally wipes out regular mobs, but someone like Drake only gets left with an opening. Still, our boy has figured out the chains will always reposition to shield the leader, just not this time. In other words, the sword god only needs to land one clean hit, so he drops into a stance from his ancient techniques, planting his feet and channeling all his power from his grounded lower body into the ultimate high guard. The spirit of the sword god flows through him again, and this time Seojun leads with the finishing blow straight to Drake's head, obliterating him in a single strike. The chatters have zero idea what just happened again. All they know is how effortless he makes it all look. Because the game runs on full virtual reality, Seojun had doubted his own technique going in, but it seems to have carried over perfectly. From his footwork to the twist of his torso to every movement of his arms, it's all fine-tuned down to the smallest detail, basically no different from having a real body. Suddenly the chain slips loose, trying to catch him off guard, but our boy dodges and creates some distance, and apparently the big bad guy still hasn't gone down, coming at him again with more offense. This time though our boy is faster, delivering a cut clean enough to shatter Drake's chain weapon entirely, leaving him unprotected. Something about swinging his weapon fills our boy with a strange kind of ecstasy, a quiet proof that he really existed in his past life. The clash ends in total domination, Drake's blades sent flying while Seojun stands over him, ready to deliver the finishing blow with the same trusty pipe. By the end, Drake's face is permanently kissing the ground, and the system officially confirms the death of the 4th District's leader. As expected, the chatters immediately start glazing our boy, even though they were trash-talking him not long ago. Seojun notices his viewer count has jumped to 450, another massive spike. Back at the troop location, he's left wondering how the hell his viewership keeps skyrocketing past even his current follower count. For a second our boy genuinely blushes, even though he was told specifically not to obsess over these numbers, but the feeling still makes him happy, and his poker face barely holds it in. The rest of the chatters are starting to suspect this man is playing some entirely different game with the kind of questions he's been asking lately. A donation of 10,000 won comes in from Spoon Murderer, the message joking that this man creepily murdered everyone with a pipe. And just like that, the alias Pipe Murderer is born. The scariest part is that even without any damage buff, he still would have taken Drake down with ease. Thanking the donor, our boy's left wondering about one thing: why the hell aren't the guards here yet? The place is completely empty, and guards should normally be flooding in, but apparently they never show up mid-mission, only during pickpocketing. Heading out of the area, our boy runs into another cloaked player he doesn't recognize. He asks who they are, and it turns out to be Christina rather than an actual random player, looking as gorgeous as ever. She's brought him a hefty salary reward for freeing them from oppression, along with a reputation boost for his success. Strangely enough, he's getting rewarded despite never officially catching Drake while on the mission. The chatters confirm this happens all the time, rewards showing up even without a proper quest completed. Not that our boy can spend the money anyway. One chatter is mad because our boy paused the game and the chatter cannot degrune to Christina. The funniest part of all this is Drake watching from heaven, wondering why this psychopath even bothered killing him when he didn't want the money in the first place. Christina asks where he's headed next, but respects his privacy when he doesn't answer, heading out looking cool as always. Seojin says his goodbyes to his baddie. Technically, the whole assassination job was never even attempted in the first place, so much for that. Still, it's time to clock out in Green Apple. Our boy is exhausted and ready to log off, but his parasocial fans are begging him to stick around just a little longer. Completely burned out, Seojin says his farewells and leaves, waking up from the capsule and stepping out of it. Kim is sitting there scrolling TikTok, weird enough that he's even in the room in the first place, and explains he watched the whole broadcast and thought it was fun. That part's fine, but our boy really doesn't appreciate someone else lounging on his bed, so he smacks the clown with a pillow to teach him a lesson. After the beatdown, Kim asks about the state of the broadcast, and whether there was any interesting reaction. Turns out the viewer count was the real highlight. Seojin snatches the phone to check for himself, watching back just how ruthless he came off with his threats. And somehow, that same ruthlessness is exactly what won him so many fans. They've started treating him like some kind of protagonist. Meanwhile, there's still zero insight on the Shard of Order, only obtainable through a warrior play event, and our boy has no clue what it's even for. He reads a post from someone clearly hating on him, and Kim just shrugs it off as part of the game. Every big name gets a few haters. Still, the attention is starting to feel like something more real. Curious for advice, Seojin asks what he should do, and Kim tells him the community base usually runs around 10,000 people, basically telling him to get even more famous, which won't be the walk in the park he's hoping for. Right then, he gets a sudden post about Alpaca, another streaming artist known for attempting warrior play, whose big gamble is quickly turning into his own downfall. Meanwhile, our boy has found the perfect bait to reel in a popular streamer, walking into Kim's room to ask about the guy known as Alpaca. Of course, Kim knows him from past collabs, which is exactly the hook Seojin needs. He asks for a small favor. Speaking of Alpaca, the guy's stuck on a brutal losing streak, failing a whopping 13 times, and getting thumbs down by his own fans. Things are looking rough, and he can't find any way to properly take Drake down. Then comes the lobby mascot, a total cutie, but instead of comforting him, our guy just spits right in its face. I mean, that is usually what llama does, right? Anyways, scaring the poor thing half to death. Not even the mascot respects him anymore. Still, he can't sit around moping. One of his donors reminds him of the bet he made to serve anyone who cleared the Drake quest through warrior play. The shock hits him hard when he checks the forum and clicks the link showing exactly who managed to defeat Drake. None other than the nameless Seojin. It's honestly unbelievable to the blonde streamer how this random guy pulled one over on the 4th District's leader, and it immediately raises a ton of questions about his identity. Right on cue, he gets a sudden text that startles him, and the moment he opens it, he sees it's Kim, offering to connect the two streamers for a chat. Over at Moviesoft Korea, CEO Eve Pamo is enjoying his coffee when his assistant comes barging in and ruins his morning. He scolds the guy for wrecking his coffee and demands an update, only to learn something massive just went down. One of the rulers has been defeated through warrior play. The room goes tense instantly. Drake's confirmed as the fallen ruler, though his defeat feels understandable given how much stronger the other rulers are supposed to be. Pamo always figured someone would take Drake down eventually, and doesn't see it as much of an issue, but if every Shard of Order ends up gathered, their entire plan falls apart. Fortunately, the assistant made sure to design around that exact possibility from the start. Speaking of which, the first Shard of Truth has already been collected, and its only condition is defeating each ruler through warrior play. That said, the strongest ruler among them can't be beaten without a special skill on top, one that acts as an amplifier to unlock massive amounts of energy. Plenty have tried and failed to obtain it. But there's a bigger concern right now. The person who beat Drake was logged in just moments ago. Pimo catches this instantly, and asks how the assistant even knows the streamer was online. basically outing the guy for slacking off on the job. The boss chews him out for the sloppy work, and the assistant storms off angrier than before, terrified by the idea that all the shards might actually end up collected. Back to Alpaca, who's just been told about a collaboration invite. Even though there's supposedly nothing great to gain from it, it's still worth a shot, so he goes for it. He tells Suhan there's one key thing missing from the whole plan. The guy he's about to meet is genuinely special, and he's planning to invite him to his master showcase stream. Suhan points out the kid's only been streaming for a few days, figuring he's probably just good at assassination games rather than actual streaming. Still, Alpaca begs him to let Seojun borrow the capsule for a while, even though they've technically got a spare one lying around already. Alpaca goes on to explain that our boy suffers from a low sync rate, meaning only the priciest top-tier capsules can even let him play properly. This baffles Suhan even more. How does someone like that end up in a master's position? And he decides he'll be keeping a close eye on the stream reactions during the collab. His prickly attitude hasn't changed one bit, but Alpaca's getting hit with a serious reality check. This newbie somehow pulled off warrior play under conditions that weren't even suited for him. It raises the obvious question of just how strong this guy really is, and whether he might secretly be some kind of criminal in real life. The thought scares Alpaca enough to wonder if he's accidentally threatened someone dangerous, right until our boy walks in and introduces himself with an absolutely lethal pretty boy face card. Sojun, in the flesh, turns out to be completely normal, and honestly even more handsome than his own in-game avatar. So things are already looking up for Alpaca, even if he's now hit with a wave of insecurity, realizing he'll have to max out his character customization just to get anywhere near Sojun's looks. Kim tags along to mediate the meeting, and the group heads inside Alpaca's place, which turns out to be genuinely elegant, the workspace and living area completely separate. Kim offers to grab coffee with Alpaca, leaving the two of them to catch up while our boy is left alone to meet Suhan. Suhan introduces himself as Alpaca's manager and editor, and our boy shakes his hand without a hint of hostility, though he can't help wondering if the firm grip is some kind of dominance move. Suhan doesn't hold back, calling out Seojun's low sync rate and piling on about his lack of experience. Staying composed, the sword god calmly mentions he first played the game 7 years ago. That changes things a bit. Suhan's curious what rank he was back then, refusing to believe this man went from silver straight to god tier after just a break. In fact, he wants to test him right then and there in the sparring ground, insisting on seeing his skills for himself in front of everyone. Kim can't help but tease the angry editor for being so bitter, even playfully warning the dude not to spar with Seojun. Honestly, Suhan is far too arrogant, walking around with his head up his own ass, but Kim already knows how this match will end, since he's already seen our boy's skills. To really paint the picture of what he means, Kim lets slip the secret he'd been keeping between just the four of them, that the man sitting right there is the true embodiment of level 10, which in turn confirms the real identity of the new level 10 AI bot. Alpaca and Suhan, intrigued, click on the video without hesitation. They watch the unknown newbie absolutely demolish the 10th stage AI of the training grounds, each sword swing precise and forceful, striking the bot's weapon at just the right angle and shattering the blade clean through. There's really only one word for that kind of footage: insane. Pulling off something so crazy against AI Seojun is unprecedented, a completely one-sided victory. Except for the hits he took on purpose, he wasn't touched even once. And the cherry on top? The trash talk at the end, where he flat out told the bot it should devote another 80 years to training just to stand a chance against him. The swag honestly was insane. Suddenly Alpaca feels the pressure creeping in for their upcoming collab stream. Meanwhile, Kim keeps bragging on the sidelines, claiming credit as the one who broke the record. After watching the whole clip, Suhan has seen enough. While the other two chuds were messing around in the background, he walks straight up to Sojun. Suhan looks him dead in the eye, and vows that from now on, he will serve Sojun as his big bro. He bows with perfect form, paying his respects to his new idol Alpaca and Kim, who thought a fight was about to break out, were worrying for nothing. Sojun meanwhile just stands there in utter confusion. Suhan wholeheartedly declares that anyone good at gaming deserves to be treated as a big bro. Grateful for the recognition, Sojun still points out that, technically speaking, he should be the one called Big Bro, or given his actual age, more of an elder. The two goofballs just watch them interact, snickering amongst themselves, until Kim's annoying laugh gets shut down courtesy of a tissue box to the face. More importantly though, Alpaca suddenly remembers a certain incident from 7 years ago, right around the time Sojun quit playing. Could it really be that he was the same user who was on the verge of making waves back then? Suhan cuts his suspicions short, reminding him it's almost time for their scheduled broadcast, and that they need to get ready now. Even though he should be thinking about the stream, Alpaca can't shake the feeling that there's more to Sojun than meets the eye. Or maybe he's just overthinking it. Before Sojun can murder his roommate with a box of tissues, Alpaca invites the pair to the stream room. Suhan, beaming with excitement, leads his big bro to his own personal capsule for the collab, practically groveling and begging for big bro to use his console, casting his own boss aside without a second thought. Finally, Alpaca hits the go live button, and the chatters flood in immediately. They've clearly been waiting on this broadcast, judging by the playful energy already in chat. Alpaca shows up in front of his audience, having announced the stream in advance, so the chat's already antsy to get to the main event. He's a little disappointed though to see his chatters hype up the collab and completely skip past his intro. It only takes one nice comment to turn his mood around. Finally, someone tuned in for him. Except of course, they really tuned in to watch him suffer through another endless endurance run. Classic bait. Annoyed, he bans that chatter on the spot, indefinitely. But instead of another failed endurance run, today's stream is going to be legendary. Cheerfully, Alpaca points behind him, introducing the professor who'll teach him how to become peerless at the game. Dramatic lighting spills out from the shabby wooden crate in the background, building suspense as it creaks open. Every chatter holds their breath. The crate bursts open, but Seojun's nowhere to be found for his big reveal. Alpaca and his chatters are confused at first, then start roasting him for being delusional, teasing him for having an imaginary friend as his so-called professor. Some even start impersonating Seojun in chat, joking that he wants to get paid before he shows up. Forced to prove he's not losing it, Alpaca pulls up his DMs. Seojun had borrowed Kim's account to message him earlier, and Alpaca mentions they'd even planned an offline after-party for later. When the two of them finally add each other in-game, Seojun messages him from his own account this time, since he has no idea how to get into someone else's lobby. Alpaca and every chatter watching are floored. Soon enough, a wave of laughter rolls in over the certified noob interaction. Even Alpaca starts to wonder if Seojun is just doing a bit for the stream. He has to freeze his live banner for a minute while helping Seojun get into his lobby. Once he's finally in, the so-called professor apologizes for being late to the party and introduces himself. Alpaca just laughs off the little stumble. After all, Seojun is still technically a beginner. The chat naturally won't let it go, roasting him endlessly for trying to learn from a noob who can't even find a lobby. The sheer firepower of 19,000 viewers dogpiling on one guy is honestly something to witness, and in just a few more moments they're about to break the 20,000 viewer mark as the comments keep getting spicier by the second. Soyun hadn't even considered that making fun of the streamer could become its own kind of content. It seems like the types of chatters in a live stream vary heavily depending on the streamer's personality. Some streamers, figuratively speaking, tie up their viewers and beat them into submission for laughs, while others run a completely clean broadcast. Alpaca's chat is a whole different world compared to Soyun's fledgling fanbase, but he can still see the charm in the free-for-all atmosphere Alpaca's cultivated. As the insults keep piling up, Soyun starts to worry he'll get roasted for his own skills in turn. As anyone keeping up with the forums already knows, Jin Soyun once defeated Drake completely solo, which forced Alpaca to honor his promise to stream the endurance run until he does the same. Some troll donates 1,000 won just to rub salt in Alpaca's wound, and he seriously considers busting out the banhammer. Soyun tries to hold it in, but watching the guy get cooked by his own chat is honestly hilarious. When Alpaca asks him not to laugh, Soyun stifles his chuckle and admits he feels a bit responsible for putting Alpaca in this situation, since he hadn't realized someone out there was confidently insisting it was impossible to beat that boss with warrior gameplay. The chat is fully on board with Soyun's not-so-subtle roasting. Alpaca watches his guest command 20,000 viewers like it's second nature. Given how many people are watching, Seojun seems awfully relaxed. Actually, it looks like he's enjoying every second of the attention. Alpaca plays up his loser persona, begging his so-called professor to save him from his own past mistakes. For today's broadcast, the plan is split into two halves. First, actually jumping into the game with Seojun to receive his god-tier teachings, and second, the warrior endurance run, which has to wait until it actually succeeds. Before they boot up Dawn of the Assassins, Alpaca asks him what basic skills he'd leveled up. To his shock, Seojun answers that he'd never once touched a skill. He'd basically ground his way through barehanded. Alpaca figured he'd at least put points into the basic passive skills that boost attack and movement speed. But no, Seojun really was a total skill virgin. He's practically a god-tier gamer running around soloing bosses stark naked skill-wise. Alpaca is utterly floored by what he just heard, and naturally asks why anyone would do that to themselves. The truth, honestly, is simple. Seojun never used skills because he genuinely had no idea how to access the menu for them. Figuring it'd sound a little pathetic to just admit that, the official answer he gives Alpaca and the chat is pure aura. He doesn't use skills because he doesn't need to. The chatters eat it up, praising Seojun as a certified giga-chad, while continuing to roast Alpaca as a useless chud. Ever since Seojun showed up, Alpaca's entire audience, all 25,000 of them, has completely turned on their own streamer. At least the viewer count keeps climbing. The second thing on the agenda with Seojun has to do with skills. First, Alpaca pulls up a clip for chat, the very first recording showing the discovery of the seams. A random user had uploaded a clip of himself stumbling onto the so-called seam and crushing the enemy's weapon in the process, followed by a quest to unlock a skill called weakness detection, earned by destroying 10 weapons through finding and breaking their weak points. The chat unsurprisingly refuses to believe Alpaca could pull off something this complicated. He rambles on about the concept of seams that shows up in fantasy novels, basically just a fancy term for a weapon's weak point, ripe for exploiting. If Alpaca can find 10 of those, he unlocks the Identify Weakness skill. So far he's only found 2, one from a rapier that broke by pure accident, and another he learned about through a side quest NPC on a longsword. As for what Identify Weakness actually does, Alpaca has no clue. It's the last skill he hasn't unlocked yet. Apparently though, Sojun thinks he can figure out the rules behind the scenes on his own. By claiming Sojun could basically break the game solo, Alpaca plants a seed of distrust in his own chat, and to spice things up even more, he proposes a bet on whether Sojun can crack the trick behind the scenes before today's stream ends. Travel runs on a channel point system, where viewers rack up points just by watching any broadcast. Chatters can spend their points on chat effects or various demands made of the streamer. It can't be cashed out, which keeps it a pretty trivial currency. There's another reason though, that everyone secretly loves channel points. Gambling, baby. The channel point prediction feature lets viewers freely bet their points on the outcome of a broadcast. Alpaca gives his chat plenty of time to place their bets, with plenty of options on the table. They can bet on finding 2 seams through pure luck, or maybe 3 or 4, or go all in on a complete strikeout or a home run. Obviously most of the chat plays it safe, while trash-talking the degenerates betting on the long-shot underdog. As the name implies, a safe bet is the more likely outcome but pays out low even when it hits, while an underdog bet has terrible odds paired with a shot at a massive payout. The majority naturally want a sure win, finding a 2 weak points by pure luck. Now fluent in gambling lingo, Sojun addresses the chat directly, urging them to bet on the underdog for a shot at 100xing their channel points. The first to take his advice is I Am Assassin, one of Sojun's very first viewers. The madman bets every single point he'd saved up over 3 years, trusting his streamer to hit a home run. Naturally, Alpaca's chat clowns him for being a total sucker, while Sojun congratulates I Am Assassin in advance for his guaranteed 100x win. Finally, Alpaca and Sojun boot up Dawn of the Assassins. They spawn near a lavish mansion, where a young NPC is sadistically cutting up a young man. The young man desperately begs his lord on his knees, pleading to be spared. Instead of showing any mercy, the young lord dares his victim to run and try to save himself. But Louis Neville has no intention of letting him go. Watching the torture unfold from a distance, Alpaca explains to Sojun that Louis is the son of Richard Neville, ruler of the far northeast. Alpaca dares Sojun to check the young lord's skills and hands over an ordinary steel sword for him to use. Even knowing exactly where the seam is doesn't make landing that precise a strike easy. Alpaca would know, having tried and failed to recreate the clip more times than he can count, finding it even harder than parrying. While he's still rambling on about how much luck plays into breaking a weak point, Sojun lunges straight at the sadistic brat. He shatters the enemy's flimsy sword in one strike and presses the attack for a one-hit KO. Just like that, he unlocks the quest for weakness detection. 1 weak point down, 9 more to go. The chat buzzes with a mix of praise for Sojun and mockery of Alpaca. The god is simply built different. Admittedly, Alpaca had failed a ton, barely managing to break Lewis's rapier. Still, one lucky success doesn't necessarily prove he could replicate the process. That logic, though, only applies to normal players. Sojun, the nameless one himself, has finally confirmed his method is correct. Still skeptical, the chat brands him a snake oil salesman for trying to sell them something impossible. Alpaca tries to keep his chat in check, but the guards finally show up, and the pair get marked as intruders. This was the perfect chance to convert the non-believers 1/ at a time. Sojun is very familiar with the concept of exploitable weak points. In his past life, the Shaolin monks who achieved insight were able to see beyond the surface world. Even with his martial prowess as the sword god sitting at the pinnacle, he wasn't a monk, so he couldn't quite see what they saw. But still, he had been trained to emulate that so-called insight. Just like back then, he only needed to grasp the true intent of the fighter in front of him. Once he gets a solid read on the enemy's intent, the countless cracks in their stance would automatically reveal themselves. This time Sojun welcomes the incoming guards with his eyes closed, making the chatters think he has given up. A shield bearer tries to knock him off his feet, but he simply swings his blade at the perfect angle. Reading the guard's intent, the exploitable seam on the shield's surface reveals itself. Cutting through the invisible line that only he can sense is effortless. In complete darkness, seeing through the armament's essence is somehow even smoother. Contrary to what the chatters expect, Sojun manages to shatter an enemy's weapon for the second time in a row. It's then and there that Alpaca realizes he is watching greatness in action. The chat is equally flabbergasted by the display of insane mechanics. That man just found a weak point, destroyed the weapon, and killed the guard with his eyes closed. Truly genius-level stuff. Alpaca is about to interview Sojun about what he just did, but gets distracted by a 1,001 donation calling the stream disgusting, rigged, and fake. Being accused of scripting the whole thing gets Alpaca fired up, and he denies the baseless claims outright. Up until a second ago, he'd been one of the people who thought Sojun was just bluffing. How could he possibly rig the fight if he was a non-believer himself? Plenty of chatters jump on the bandwagon, condemning the broadcast as fake. In truth, most of them are just salty because they'd lost precious channel points on a bad bet. Sojun defends himself by reminding everyone that he told them to trust and bet on his success from the start. According to the betting board, the safe bettors weren't the only ones in trouble. Now only 1% of the audience had predicted he'd find 4 or more weak points in a single stream. That means 99% of chatters with points on the line are about to get wrecked. At least they'll all go down together. As long as no one fails alone, it should be fine. Seojun shares that sentiment, lightening the atmosphere amongst the chatters. Alpaca is very impressed by Seojun's ability to tease the viewers while steering the flow in his favor, all while staying likable. He's not just good at the game, he's got a real sense for streaming too. Seojun is the perfect collab partner. Alpaca won't have to carry the stream alone. With the guards out of the way, he interviews the man of the hour regarding what he just accomplished. The chatters are curious what his actual job is in real life, given such monstrous skills and reaction time. To satisfy their curiosity, he truthfully answers that he's just an ordinary chill guy in his 20s. Alpaca is insulted that this dude of all people would call himself ordinary, claiming to be just a chill guy with a face sculpted by the gods, should honestly be criminal. Alpaca reveals to his chat that what they're seeing in-game is exactly how Nameless looks in real life, zero customization required. The chatters don't know what to feel. Some demand a balance patch to nerf his looks, while others simply accept that the world is unfair sometimes. One chatter donates 10,000 won just to say something's gotta be small to balance Seojun out. It takes Alpaca a second to catch on, but the moment he does, ready to unleash his greatest weapon, the permaban, Seojun has to hold him back from nuking his own chat. In the end, he agrees to let the disrespect to his master's manhood slide just this once. Behind the scenes though, the donor gets wounded by the other chihuahua lurking in chat. Suhan extorts the poor guy's wallet for a bailout. Back in the game, Alpaca repeats his question about how Seojun pulled it off. Honestly, he wasn't exactly seeing the seam. According to him, he just instinctively knows where it is, since he's a genius. Alpaca wants to smack him upside the head right then and there. After the initial shock wears off, the entire chat erupts in laughter at both the obnoxious answer and Alpaca's reaction, who's basically slumping and melting on his feet by now. Alpaca begs Seojun to show mercy and elaborate a little further. Trying a different angle, Seojun claims he was just thinking about what the developers would have done, basically saying he read the devs' minds off just 2 examples. Falafel the simpler parry was added to the game for clearing mobs efficiently. Hitting the seam presumably was designed as a harder version of that. However, a successful seam hit only breaks the weapon and doesn't deal any extra damage. In short, the whole seam system was never really meant to be used against normal mobs. The game essentially hands the player 3 paths: play it straight through assassinations, speedrun it with god-tier parries, or master the seam for weapon breaks. This whole equipment breaking system is really built for boss fights. The first boss, Drake, had an ironclad defense and attacks that were nearly unparryable. Rather than lecturing them on game mechanics, the clear-eyed madman casually announces he's going to try taking down the second ruler for a demonstration. Naturally, the underdog bettors still holding the line suggest he find a safer enemy first, worried about losing their points. Ignoring the gamblers in chat entirely, Seojun asks Alpaca to open one more prediction line, this time a wager on whether he can destroy the ruler's equipment today. This bet at least is simple, a plain yes or no. Seojun reminds the viewers to trust and follow his lead. Go all in on yes. Having dealt with the son, it's now time to face the father. The ruler of the far northeast and royalist leader, Richard, is programmed to avenge his son by any means necessary. Clad in full armor and wielding a great sword, he suffocates Seojun with non-stop attacks. Despite the ruler's onslaught of deadly, unpredictable strikes, the god gamer remains at full health. Our boy sensed the wildly weak points on the Papa's sword, but can't seem to exploit it. Even Alpaca, watching from the sidelines, has no clue how Seojun's supposed to pull this off through sheer mechanics. The fight is dragging on a little too long for his liking. While still bobbing and weaving through ferocious sword strikes, he reads Alpaca's waning belief that he can find the weak point. He never even glances Alpaca's way, yet reads his thoughts perfectly. The degenerate gamblers in chat are starting to turn on Lord Nameless. According to some more experienced viewers, Richard's weapon is made of some special material. That sword might not even have a seam to exploit at all. Hearing that only stirs Seojun's competitive spirit, and his senses stretch past the sword to envelop the ruler's entire being. It's time to check whether this boss is really unbreakable. Finally, Richard swings his great sword wide and strong, carving a full arc. Nameless sidesteps the blow and readies an attack of his own. The boss, growing tired of the same old tricks, insists nothing can break him, but Richard Neville is sorely mistaken. For the first time since the fight began, Seojun manages to stab a weak point with the tip of his blade. He doesn't stop there. Catching the ruler of the far northeast off guard, he drives the blade even deeper into Richard's virtual flesh. Alpaca is hyped. This might just be the turnaround he's been waiting for. The moment that blade pierces through the gap in the armor, it's basically already over. Seojun's view of the weak points has never been clearer, and following that line, he systematically dismantles Richard's armor with terrifying speed and precision. The unlock condition for weakness detection calls for 10 broken weapons via weak points. He meets that requirement in a single boss fight, dismantling the royalist leader's armor piece by piece. Alpaca and his chat are absolutely losing their minds. They never would have guessed the game's troublesome second ruler could be dominated like this. As a result, Zero Skill Sejun becomes the first player to acquire the rarest skill in the game, weakness detection. Like a seasoned entertainer, he turns to his audience and admits his mistake. The chat had been right. The ruler's sword really was unbreakable without a weak point to exploit. The same, however, can't be said for Richard's armor and body. By the time the borrowed capsule finally opens, the sun's already setting. When Sejun opens his eyes, the first thing he sees is Suhan, respectfully bowing and showering him with praise for an incredible stream. Sejun also thanks Suhan for letting him borrow a top-of-the-line capsule, but little bro responds by dropping his bow to a perfect 90-degree angle, one-upping his gratitude. If anything, Suhan feels honored that his capsule got to experience the gameplay of a god gamer. Back in the living room, Kim Ta-woo, surprisingly, has stuck around. He'd cancelled his own stream just to watch, since there's no way he'd miss his roommate's first collab. Kim also urges him to hurry up and get back out there to rescue Alpaca, who's currently being harassed by his own chat to bring Sejun out already. If they could slap him out of his chair, they would. Thankfully, Sojun's finally ready to show the world how he looks in real life. Like the great hype man he is, Alpaca directs everyone's attention to the door behind him. The whole chat holds its breath, ready to be amazed by the man favored by the gods. When Sojun walks in, the room practically lights up. The viewers weren't catfished. That man is actually handsome as hell. Face already complete, no filter required. Right after the Dawn of Assassins stream wraps up, clips of Lord Nameless spread across the forums. For the IRL portion, Alpaca shows off the pretty boy to his audience, and the reactions range from jealous incels to straight-up thirsty chatters. Of course, the chat quickly devolves into comparing how ugly Alpaca looks sitting next to a peerless beauty. He tries to fire back, swearing he looked pretty decent back in his own 20s too. He just put on a little weight is all. Bringing up his weight, though, is a mistake. The chatters now know exactly what'll make him self-conscious, and they poke at it relentlessly. His only saving grace is the chatters who never watched him for his looks in the first place. Feeling depressed and deflated, Alpaca leaves the room to get things ready for the next part of the stream. Seo-jun is left to entertain tens of thousands of viewers solo, while Alpaca preps dinner for their collab afterparty. Alone in the streaming room, the donations roll in, people are throwing money at him just to be noticed. There are plenty of flirty messages in chat, but he can tell every single one of these chatters is a dude. From that point on, Seo-jun grows suspicious of every donation hitting the stream. Some of the hardcore gamers in chat want to know more about weakness detection and the fight from earlier. The skill itself is pretty straightforward. Weakness detection lets the user destroy equipment more easily by striking along the marked lines. If chatters want to see more of his gameplay, they'd better tune in to his stream tomorrow. It's a shameless self-promo, sure, but the hustle's respectable. Seo-jun, having fun interacting with chat, opens up an Ask Me Anything Q&A. He gets asked about what a fragment of order actually is, but he isn't entirely sure what they are or what they do. They ask about his workout routine, and he honestly answers that he mostly just runs. As for why he picked Dawn of the Assassins as his first stream game, a friend recommended it to him. After the Q&A, the celebratory dinner gets served. Kim also introduces himself to chat as the friend who recommended Seo-jun the game. Some chatters recognize Kim, roasting him for not streaming and bringing his GigaChad friend out sooner. Some are curious how the two even became friends, so Kim proudly answers, they've been buddies since high school, they even live together now. That was a mistake. Some chatter brings up the fact that Kim's talked about his roommate on stream before. Unbeknownst to Seo-jun, Kim's viewers already know him as the legendary roommate. Kim tries to hide the messages, but that only makes everyone in the room even more curious. Suddenly someone drops a 1,001 donation attached to a travel clip. Seo-jun shoves his dumbass roommate out of the way of the phone and opens the clip, straight out of Kim's own stream, yapping about some funny story. According to Kim, his roommate's a pretty decent guy, but sometimes he does the weirdest things. One day Seo-jun got dirt on his phone and just started scrubbing it down with soap. When asked why, he argued the phone was waterproof, so it was fine. The day before that, Kim had asked his buddy to cool the capsule down with a cooler, and the weirdo crouched next to it, aiming a tiny handheld fan at it instead. Seo-jun had no idea that this so-called friend of his had been painting him as some kind of freak with zero common sense the whole time. As punishment, Seo-jun turns his cheek into a piece of meat for tonight's final course. The chat, naturally, eats up the dinner shenanigans. After a great meal, Alpaca formally thanks Seo-jun for such a great collab. He humbly returns the thanks, considering how much he'd learned collaborating with a far more experienced streamer. Eventually they land on the topic of Seo-jun starting a YouTube channel. Although he'd like to get his videos out to the world, he's still pretty inexperienced on that front. If he's serious about breaking into the industry, Alpaca suggests he find an editor first, and if Seo-jun's interested, Alpaca would be happy to introduce him to one he knows. Back at his dorm, our boy is chilling at his balcony. He opened a canned drink. The first sip, paired with the view from the balcony, is refreshing. Alone with his thoughts, he seriously considers starting a YouTube channel. According to Alpaca, it can only help his stream grow so much bigger. It's a surefire way to blow up. Not to mention the sweet revenue that comes from the views. The only real bottleneck for how much a channel thrives comes down to the editor's skills. Since capsule games are fundamentally different from other titles, it's rare to find an editor who can make them pop. All this editor talk gets Seo-jun curious about how Suhan ended up becoming Alpaca's editor. According to Little Bro, he was just a regular office worker before teaming up with Alpaca. He'd simply stumbled onto his stream one day. From the jump, Alpaca had a good sense for streaming and entertaining an audience, but he was severely limiting his own growth by never uploading videos, leaving his channel to gather dust. Suhan took it upon himself to revive that man's career, so he reached out to Alpaca directly. That was back when Alpaca was just a total nobody, a goofy guy with a camera and nothing else. Suhan saw the potential and quit his job to edit his videos full-time. He had a feeling Alpaca would make it big, so he fully committed to turning his friend into a star. Their story is proof that a good editor makes all the difference if you want to succeed as a streamer on YouTube. Seo-jun wonders if adding YouTube to his work stack would hinder his ultimate goal of winning the League of Streamers championship. Originally, he'd only intended to win a top-of-the-line capsule and quit streaming for good, but the whole process of gaming with an audience has turned out to be way more fun than he expected. In the short time he's been streaming, he has grown to love the time spent laughing and hanging out with people in a virtual world. Perhaps he enjoys the company of strangers simply because he's lonely, and admittedly, that might just be the case. He carries the weight of his past life's memories, like having a hometown he can never return to, no matter how badly he longs for it. Stopping himself before he gets too sappy, Sejun decides to hit the gym to clear his head. At the boxing gym he frequents, Sejun gears up for a sparring match. In here he doesn't have to think about anything besides beating the guy in front of him. His jabs are lethal. Getting hit by even one could easily knock out an experienced boxer. The resident coach has noted that Sejun only shows up to relieve stress by fighting unsuspecting sparring partners. Still, it's strange how everyone who gets absolutely pummeled by him somehow ends up a lot better for it. Professional boxers have practically hailed him as their master after a brutal beatdown. While the coach was watching the spar, the client he was supposed to be training kept moaning and complaining about the endless treadmill run. Lee Dong-soo, an 18-year-old phenom and player for freefall, was itching to get in the ring. Coach drills into the kid's head that all the basics and stamina training he's put in for the past 2 weeks will pay off in the long run. Lee tries to argue he's a pro, so he deserves some minutes in the ring. But he might be a pro only in the virtual world. Reality's a whole different beast than sitting in a capsule all day. Freefall's coach instructs him to gain some actual experience with his physical body. That's the entire reason he's been coming to the gym in the first place. But at this rate he might be stuck on treadmill duty until next year's tournament, feeling like a hamster endlessly running on a wheel. Lee throws a childish tantrum, demanding to learn some real-life combat techniques. The other gym-goers barely react to the shenanigans. They've long since grown used to his tantrums. Annoyed and pushed to the limit of his patience, Coach finally lets Lee have a quick spar. The kid's eyes light up as he asks if he can pick his own opponent. Coach lets him go wild, figuring there's no one in the gym he could actually beat. Anyway, while celebrating his escape from the endless torment of the treadmill, Lee hears a body make a dull thud upon hitting the ring's canvas. He looks over and recognizes the man in the blue corner as the guy from that viral travel clip from the day before. One of his freefall teammates, Minyoon, wouldn't stop gushing about how good the player named Nameless was, so Lee looked into it. Even Shin Hyan seemed impressed watching the clips. Lee refuses to admit the player in question was anything special. Knowing how exclusive this gym is, the young man wonders how some nobody got in, probably friends with the manager or something. Sejun notices the red-haired runt looking at him and stares back. Lee, intimidated by the stare-down, turns around and avoids Sejun's gaze. When Coach asks if he has decided on an opponent yet, he panics. Coach puts his hands on the runt's shoulders, trying to convey that sparring isn't about knocking an opponent down. He lectures that it's ultimately about testing a fighter's technique and showing where they can improve. Tuning out the long-winded lecture, Lee's eyes wander back into the ring. By his estimate, the man in there is about the same size as him, and he doesn't exactly have eye-popping muscles either, so if he picks that guy it should be a manageable fight, right? Coach tries to instill some proper fighting etiquette, but Lee isn't listening. He finally makes up his mind and asks if he can spar with the guy who just knocked out his last opponent. The coach tries to talk the kid out of jumping into the ring with the final boss, pointing out there are plenty of other fighters in the gym who'd love to spar with a professional gamer. He adds that it's rude and thoughtless to ask for a spar with someone he's just met. But Sejun overhears the conversation and cuts in. Having heard the red-haired runt wants to spar with him, he says he'd gladly gear up for another round. Lee tactlessly hops into the ring and addresses Sejun by name. He admits to watching yesterday's stream and insists on calling Sejun Big Bro. After putting on gloves and headgear, both fighters stand in the ring while everyone watches. In a patronizing tone, the kid praises Sejun for being good at the game he plays on stream. Still, the brat believes Sejun isn't nearly as good as him. Not one to back down from a challenge, Sejun looks the kid in the eyes and cluelessly asks who he even is. Dong-soo had assumed anyone in the gym would know who he was. He's deeply mistaken. Like the immature kid he is, Lee claims to be the one and only gaming god. Sejun scratches his head. The name doesn't ring a bell at all. Lee salvages his ego by reminding himself that Sejun only just started gaming recently. all the more reason not to make a big deal out of some nobody. The kid promises to tell Sejun who he is after he wins, urging him in the meantime to take this spar as a huge honor. Lee arrogantly relaxes his stance, believing there's no need to get serious with someone who just started gaming. While the kid's trying to keep things polite and easy, Sejun charges at him with murderous intent, packed into a single glove. One punch is all it takes to shut the gaming prodigy up for good. Meanwhile, our boy is hanging out with his cool PC gamer Pops, Jin Ha-jun, and safe to say Pops isn't impressed with what he's seeing in the boxing match. He asks his son if the stream's going fine, voicing his own worry that his son might be having a rough time in his streaming journey. Apparently, Kim used to tell them how hard it was to gain even a single viewer, which is funny considering it paints the picture that this idiot's been feeding his parents some strange stories. Anyway, Ha-jun wants to help his son out and suggests playing PlanetCraft as one option. Of course, the main concern for our boy is whether the game's actually doing numbers. His dad figures playing unique games is what gets you a viewer base to begin with. But when he asks his son about his viewer count, Sejun straight up says he's usually got around 440 people watching, with 3,000 followers. The reveal makes the man spit his drink out. Pops is basically having a heart attack over how many followers his son's already racked up. Right after the collab broadcast, the community was in an uproar. Each post cleared at least 30 upvotes, and there was hardly a single post left slandering our boy's reputation. In simple terms, people finally understood what he was about. No pushover, no scammer. Out of nowhere, Kim sends our boy a message, urging him to check out another article claiming Sejun must be some kind of hacker. Great. Another scandalous article, and Kim's just laughing about it. With things veering into irrational territory, Sejun gives up and simply reports the misinformed post. What bothers him is the thought of having to run a whole explanation stream just to clear up the rumors, and his streaming career is barely 3 days old. The guys in the capsule are curious how many numbers he'll pull this time. The count soars higher and higher, hitting the highest total he's ever gotten. The CEO is stunned that weakness detection has already been exploited, even though it wasn't scheduled to deploy for another month. His assistant confirms it, and reminds his boss about the warning he'd given last time, one his arrogant boss hadn't bothered to listen to. The assistant points out that no one should have been able to read into it this easily, though the CEO has no idea what he's even talking about. So the assistant flips the laptop screen toward him, showing a video of the man of the hour breaking a weak point, Sojin, basically styling on the mission. The CEO doesn't know what to say, questioning how it's even possible for someone to unlock a skill before it's scheduled. Apparently they've already checked, there's no bug at all. Instead, the man in question, already a big fan of Sojin, has his own theory for why. He starts typing out an entire essay on how Sojin must be some 5-head big brain type who managed to read the pattern instantly before shattering it. In other words, the guy isn't a hacker either. If anything, that only makes him look more like a prodigy, or maybe even a god. The CEO gets the glazing going on, but still has no clue what their next move should be. The assistant asks what they're even supposed to do. The CEO snaps back, asking about the state of the fragments and what they should do about it. Until then, the fragment of order is no joke. It's one of the hidden Easter eggs hinting at the company's upcoming product. Since once all 4 are gathered, a chain quest opens up for whoever's pursuing it. There's even a teaser video already prepared for that moment. Everything had been calculated down to the letter, a method the CEO himself perfected. One small issue though, thanks to our boy getting involved, that perfect calculation has gone completely off the rails, all because of one stubborn player. The CEO sulks in defeat, asking how long it'll take to put together another teaser video. About a month, he learns, or as little as a week if they really push overtime. But the real question is what happens if the streamer ends up collecting all the fragments before that window closes. His assistant, radiating confidence, is happy to answer. He's fully convinced Sejun will gather every crystal before the week's even out. Yeah, not exactly the answer the boss wanted to hear. The CEO orders him out of the room. Talk about being the most useful and the most useless employee at the same time. The CEO's about done with life when he stumbles across a video of Sejun making waves yet again. It's genuinely hard to believe this random newbie is capable of pulling off such miraculous feats. Even someone in his position is starting to doubt what's actually going on. At this point, our boy's view count sits at a massive 120,000. His techniques all on full display. How he took down opponent after opponent with pure finesse. Each fight is so epic that the CEO's basically turned into a fanboy himself, genuinely thrilled someone's clever enough to use one of his own original strategies to take down Drake. It's 3 a.m. and he suddenly realizes he's been feeling a strange kind of fulfillment lately. The game he poured his soul into is being enjoyed by players all over the world, and that genuinely makes him happy. This is exactly the purpose he set out to create with Dawn of the Assassins. His days keep taking a satisfying turn thanks to Sejun's existence, who's now dubbed himself a veteran newbie with 1,700 followers. The next time our boy comes back to stream, all his viewers are confused by the sudden change in his title. Now that the viewership's really doing numbers, the chat's moving fast too, which is why this guy's prepared something in advance, with a couple other chatters serving as his well-trusted backup. These 3 are officially handed the role of moderators, the most serious job in the world. The goal's simple: eliminate trolls and rule breakers in chat. It's only fitting these guys get the mod badge, seeing as they've been here since day one. Our boy personally reached out to each of them, and all agreed to the deal, except one, the public restroom guy, who ghosted him. Anyway, Sejun publishes his new chat rules too, only 3 basic ones, which really just boil down to using common sense. Still, the viewers are curious about the stream's title, and since everyone's been dying to know how he found the weak point in the first place, Sejun figures why not just show them. He apologizes up front before explaining how he connected the lines running along similar parts of the equipment for an easier cut. He then decided to report the exploit himself, knowing no one would have believed him otherwise anyway. A pretty bold move, all things considered. That's why the stream's titled around accidentally using a hack, which makes the chatters lose it, since they can see exactly how hard this guy's trying to keep things fair. With the explanations out of the way, it's time for the broadcast. Right on cue, a notification pops up. Our boy assumes it's for the mission, but nope, it's a message from the game's creator, offering him 1,000,000 won if he can use weakness detection against the Aetherius Spire. The chatters don't quite get the point of it, wondering aloud whether the goal's to use magic, or whether magic can even be cut at all. Trying to arrange it all in his head, Sejun plays out the scenario, wondering if this is really the creator reaching out to advise him. The fact that someone's offering 1,000,000 won just for this one mission alone is massive, which only makes him believe it really might be the creator himself. The chatters roast him for being so naive he even has to ask when the answer's obvious. Over in the city ruled by mages, the Aetherius Spire, the ruler here is Duke, the central figure of this mission, who has no qualms conducting human experiments in the name of research and progress. Leaping around the district, we have Donatello Larper, who nearly makes a poor girl faint by moving as swift as an assassin. Technically she's not wrong, our boy really is out here to assassinate his target, though the chatters ask if he even knows who the boss is. As always, he plays dumb in front of his viewers, earning their insults for just charging straight ahead instead of overthinking it. Our boy navigates the area, his best lead being the NPC mages, who he notes are pretty rare in this region to begin with. The first few floors are trash, and the 4th is where the real fight kicks off. With chat gone quiet, our boy's instincts tell him something's about to happen. A man warns the intruder not to enter restricted grounds, but Seo-jun, being Seo-jun, draws his weapon just to scare the guy off, then delivers a pretty nasty hit to his body, knocking the wind clean out of him as he drops to the ground. Yeah, that's not exactly what anyone would call a light hit. Suddenly our boy's body starts going through several changes, as if it's being forcibly paralyzed out of nowhere. Back there a mage curses doom upon the intruder, who can't do a thing from his current position. Next the same mage fires off a searing blast, one the sword god can't even dodge, frozen in place as he is. But of course bro still dodged the attack while staying completely nonchalant about it. The mage, still riding on arrogance, figured the MC just got lucky, so he went ahead and cast an even bigger spell straight at bro. Jin Seo-jin used his weakness detection skill to cut through the enemy's attack and then sliced the mage clean in half. He got confused about why he suddenly got immobilized and tried asking chat about it, but they refused to spill, so he teased them a little by threatening to end the stream right then and there. Turns out Aetherius Spire slaps a debuff on every single floor. The 4th floor he was on came with temporary paralysis, and the 5th floor hit with sensory confusion, flipping his left and right senses entirely. Like the absolute goat he is, with his Maharaga tier adaptability, even debuffs turn into buffs in his hands, and he cleared the 5th floor like it was nothing. Stepping into the 6th floor, he got hit with a slow debuff that left him painfully sluggish. Skipping ahead to the 7th floor, he walked into a room of total darkness, forced to feel his way around blind. While retracing his memory of the earlier floors, a mage hurled a fire spell at him, and the ceiling started collapsing. He parried every single falling chunk of rubble, leaving his viewers genuinely wondering if this guy was even human. Using his senses, he picked up on another spell being conjured nearby, charged straight toward the source, sliced through a whole volley of ice arrows and closed in on the conjurer. The mage, realizing she'd been found out, threw another wave of magic arrows his way. Sogun casually cut through the attacks and finished her off like a true assassin, who only gets stronger the darker it gets. Viewers were floored by the gameplay once again and dropped a couple of donations his way, so to say thanks, Seo-jun blessed them with his perfect face card, and the 7th floor mission wrapped up clean. Floor 8 of Aetherius Spire brought the boss fight, the master of the Aetherius Spire himself, Duke. Before Seo-jun could even walk in, a viewer dropped a link to a strategy guide for the fight, since hunting rulers had become a whole trend thanks to a certain streamer, that streamer being him. The guide laid out that the master of the Aetherius Spire runs on 2 phases. Phase 1, the boss just throws normal magic around. Phase 2 though, he wraps himself in a shield that won't crack unless hit with an explosive, and even then bombs alone don't cut it, because of some quantity cap. On top of that, Phase 2 comes with non-stop lightning fire, and an instant shield recast the moment it breaks. Seo-jun opened his inventory and realized he had quite literally nothing. Even running on scraps, he still figured he could clear it, though though he also seriously considered the possibility of dying for the first time. The idea of him possibly dying and failing a mission for the first time got the fans hyped, and betting pools started popping up in chat immediately. He just smiled with total confidence, so obviously we all knew he wasn't letting this slide. And with that, the fight against the master of the Aetherius Spire, Duke, officially began. The fight had barely started before he steamrolled Phase 1, and Duke immediately dropped into Phase 2, unloading lightning non-stop. Sojin clocked that this was faster than even the quickest sword strike from his past life as a master swordsman, so trying to just watch and dodge wasn't going to cut it. He had to predict it instead. Duke, seemingly wondering if the MC could actually dodge his next hit, cast it anyway. Jin Sojin quickly picked up on a slight delay right before each cast landed, and used that window to study how the boss's gaze shifted toward his target along with his hand gestures mid-cast. Once again, Bro dodged the relentless lightning barrage clean, leaving viewers completely stunned. As the fight dragged on, Sojin started picking up on a pattern and noticed something strange sitting inside a glass container. He chucked his weapon at it, but right before impact, the boss threw up a shield just in time. That set Duke off. He clearly realized there was some secret tied to that item, and started scrambling for a way to break through his own shield defensively while dodging. Viewers grew restless watching the back and forth, since Sojin knew he couldn't just cut through lightning the way he had with the previous attacks. Then Bro found lightning's actual weak point. No skill needed, drove his sword straight into it, and just started aura farming mid-fight. Sojin channeled the lightning through his blade, and unleashed a lightning slash straight at the boss, shattering both the shield and the mysterious object underneath, which turned out to be the very core he'd been protecting the whole time. Duke tried to play it cool, but Sojin teased him just enough to bait him into a rage. He tried one more attack. Sojin charged him head-on. Duke attempted to teleport behind him, thinking he could pull a fast one, but a sword ended up buried deep in his gut instead, finally killing the master of the Aetherius Spire, Duke, and leaving fans completely stunned and confused in the best way. Sojin got rewarded with the third shard of order and the mission payout. The CEO was thrilled Sojin had finally taken down the master of the Aetherius Spire, and was fully confident he'd managed to complete all 4 shards. He immediately tried getting in touch with our boy Sojin. Right then, a cutscene from the game's story mode kicked in, introducing a whole new cast. A mysterious new assassin organization surfaces. The cutscene wraps up, and it turns out these guys are actually part of the Syndicate, a group functioning similarly to the Assassination Squad. Bro got teleported outside afterward, and was confused why nobody was around, despite the massive commotion he'd just caused. After his successful assassination, a popular guy dropped a donation, but of course Bro, being a total boomer, had no clue that this donor was actually a well-known pro in a card game, and had just realized he was picking up serious traction with a new audience. A hand suddenly yanked him into an alley, and there she was, fan favorite Christina, the girl everyone's been simping over. She handed him his reward, and then a new character stepped in, Arthur Haig, branch manager of Altion. This bum told the MC to stop hunting the rulers, but Sojin flatly refused, so Arthur scrambled for an excuse and just told him to wait instead. After the game, he got a reply from the game's actual creator. Turns out he'd reported himself for hacking, because he was just too good. After all that shit, our boy suddenly just screamed green apple. Without notice, Sojin then announced he was looking to hire an editor. After the stream wrapped, his friend asked if he wanted to join an MCN, a channel management company. Sojin turned it down, saying he had a meeting lined up with Moviesoft, the developers behind Dawn of the Assassination Squad. His friend flat out didn't believe him, and figured it had to be phishing. The whole time, his friend was convinced Sojin had done something shady, and warned him not to go.